Okay, this is the Time to Design clock project, and I'm going to talk you through how to make your own freestanding clock with aluminium legs, wooden base and acrylic clock mechanism holder. So first thing you're going to do is get some aluminium rod. You're going to put it in the vise with some vice guards, and you're going to use a steel rule and scribe to measure it out to 45 millimeters, making a mark with your scribe. Cut it using a junior hacksaw just a little bit bigger than the line, and you're going to put it on the metal lathe and face off the aluminium. This means to make it smooth and flat down to 45 millimeters. You're then going to countersink and drill in both ends of the leg with a 4.2 millimeter drill bit. You then use a tap to tap a thread, so you're going to dip it in the cutting compound, put it in the holes of your legs, and this will create a thread on the inside of the legs so you can screw in from both sides. So when you're using the tap, you need to do 360 degrees clockwise and 180 degrees anti-clockwise, and that will then keep going until you get to the end of the tap to create the thread. Once it's done, lefty-loosey, take the tap out of the hole, and then you'll need to wash out the cutting compound inside both sides of the holes. Now we're ready to start making your wooden base. So you're going to meter mark a square line with a tri-square and measure 120 millimeters. And then using a bench hook and a tenon saw, you're going to cut just off the line to 120 millimeters. So you've got a square line both sides. Using the belt sander, making sure we're wearing safety glasses and ties tucked in, hairs tied back. Green for go, and you're going to sand down to the lines on both sides, so it's 120 millimeters square on both ends. Once your wood is nice and square, we're then going to mark out two holes. These holes need to be 40 millimeters apart, so because it's 120, it should be 40, 40, 40, making sure your holes are in the middle, and then we're going to drill those holes on the pillar drill. Once these have been drilled, you can then use the countersink on the drill, the hand drill, to countersink these holes, and this will mean that the screws underneath will fit flush with the bottom of the wooden base. We then need to round our edges, so we're going to put it in the jig, which holds it in place, and we're going to use a handheld router to router the end so it's nice and round, so it matches the sides that have been done for you. You can then clean up your wooden base. So we're going to start off with an 80 grit sandpaper, which is quite rough, working our way down to 120, making sure we follow the grain when we're sanding, and work our way to a wet and dry, which will really smooth the wood. Once it's nice and clean and smooth, we're then going to add some beeswax, which is a nice natural finish, with a cloth. So put a little bit on the cloth, and then just do little circles and work your way into the wood, which will give a nice clear coat on the wood. We can then start to design our acrylic, which is going to hold our clock mechanism. So you need to design that out and your initials, making sure that the black lines are for cut and red lines are for engrave. We can then send that then to the laser cutter, and it'll start to cut out of 3mm acrylic. Once it's been cut out, we go over to the line bender, we place our acrylic underneath, and then we line up the engrave line with the line that's inside the strip that's going to get really hot, and we leave it on there for about 2 minutes. Once it's hot enough, it'll be really floppy and easy to bend, and we can bend it over the corner of the line bender or a table to make sure it's 90 degrees. Leave it cool for about 30 seconds. Then we're going to use emery cloth to clean up our aluminium legs. So clean them all up, make sure there's scratches, and then we'll use wet and dry again to clean them all up and make them nice and shiny. We're going to put some long bolts through the wooden base at the bottom and some short screws through the top of the acrylic. You may need to potentially cut down your long screws if they're a little bit long. So you put them through a metal plate and then you cut off whatever you want on the other side of the metal plate, whatever you need to cut off. And once that's done, you will then put the screws through the base, screw into the aluminium, so righty-tighty, and then you'll place your acrylic on top with your two shorter screws, making sure the holes line up in the acrylic with the aluminium legs. And there we have our wooden base, just like so, with our aluminium legs. We can then place the clock mechanism with a rubber washer. That goes through the acrylic. You then put your face, your clock face, whichever you've made, over the spindle, like so. And then there's a washer, a little brass washer that goes on. Then there's a nut, and you'll need to fiddle with that a little bit to get it to tighten onto the thread. And then using an adjustable spanner, you can tighten that nut up then so the face is nice and tight on there. So work it until it's on there. It's a little bit fiddly to get it on there, but once it's there, use your adjustable spanner then to tighten that up again, righty-tighty. And then you put your hands on. There's the shorter hour hand with a bigger hole. That goes on the white cylinder first, like that. So push it onto the white cylinder. Then if you look, there's the minute hand, which is longer and has a slightly smaller hole. So that then needs to go on the next cylinder. like that. So you push it over the cylinder, and then there's the second hand, which is the red one, which has got this like point to it, and that goes inside the hole, and you push that on, and that just clips and holds the hands on like so. And there you have it. There's your finished clock.